Please be aware this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society, where we're ticking all the boxes and providing the much-needed minority opinion in popular internet discourse. I'm Matty, my pronouns is she and her, or, well actually, what is my name? What's in a name? What's it? This is, oh my god, there's actually a lot to talk about today.
Yeah. I don't know what I can and can't say. So tell me off if I say something bad or edit it out.
Yeah, that's fine.
I know you said that you will sometimes be okay with that name.
Yeah.
But in my mental, I was like, absolutely can't use that name. And then I was like, damn, did Tilly just dead name herself? I buried the lead, but I guess it's your place to make the announcement.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. Yeah, so as Josh alluded to, I have a new name, and it is a new name. Like objectively, that's what it is. And it's Matilda. It has replaced Matty was always short for something, that will not be named. And Matilda is essentially the new form of that name. And but I like having a formal name and then like a nickname. So I'm Matilda going by Tilly. And Matty is like still okay in like certain contexts. But yeah, so that's a thing. Episode whatever this is, that's where it is. It's a little moment. It's a little moment. There's a new bitch on the cast. Her name's Tilly. It's hot girl Tilly. Yeah.
Milestone.
Milestone. But anyway, that aside, the big thing that is, we've got some movies to talk about.
Yeah.
We got some movies to talk about today. Today we're going to be talking about John Carpenter's sophomore feature, Assault on Precinct 13, that inspired the 2005 remake with Lawrence Fishburne and Ethan Hawke.
It fucks me up because there's a dark part of me that wants to watch that because it has Lawrence Fishburne and Ethan Hawke in it. Also, it's a 2005 remake of Assault on Precinct 13.
Of like a pulpy second half of the 20th century film, so it's gonna be bad. Like it's gonna be bad. And you know what? I've actually seen it. Like I've seen a significant amount of it when it was just on the TV when I was like 9. And my dad was like, "Let's just fucking watch this," because my dad doesn't care. My dad doesn't care. I was too young to watch that movie. It's really violent. Like it's really like awful. Like from my memory, like I was really not okay with watching it.
I think
he was like, "Oh, we should watch the original someday," and I was like, I don't know.
When we get into the main discussion, like I'd love to hear your like comparisons, I guess, based on what memory you have.
I was actually we'll get into that in a bit, but yeah. In the meantime, Space Jam 2 dropped. Josh has somehow got his hands on it and watched it because I checked on Letterboxd and it's only available in on HBO Max.
Oh yeah.
Did you break the law, Josh?
Actually, no. I went into Flesh Space and watched it in one of those big rooms with a large screen. I think it's called a cinema.
It's fucked up. I genuinely forget that's an option. Like for such a long time.
Well, you know, I'm half vaccinated now. I taken a test in the morning because I was going to a big public event and I had to take a test, and I was like, I was good. I was cool. No COVID. So you know, I had a family in town because it was my graduation. So my family were here, and over drinks. I think after like 2 tequilas, I just decided, wouldn't it be really funny if I took my brother to watch Space Jam 2?
That's awesome.
Because my brother's like a huge basketball fan.
Good for him.
So I was like, that would probably be quite fun. Like, you know, if they made like a film about like the super giant devs like playing basketball with Looney Tunes characters, even if it was terrible, I'd want to see it if I was a fan of that field. No pun intended. So we went to watch it, and I think So I on my letterbox officially, I've given it 2.5 stars, and my reasoning for this is it's Space Jam 2. So I've got Space Jam expectations of this film. In the same way that when I see Sonic the Hedgehog, I've got Sonic the Hedgehog expectations of that film.
That's so true.
And I thought it was going to be dog shit, because I'm going to be honest with you. I think the first Space Jam is generally fucking dog shit. Like, I remember we had a sleepover once, and our friend put it on, like, to be funny. And I remember, like, I actually remember, like, not wanting to look at the screen because I was so, like, viscerally bored and upset by watching, like, Michael Jordan play golf and, like, talk to cartoons.
Yeah, no, it's like there are a few of those movies from our teenage years that we put on for like ha funny, and then actually in the first 5 minutes you all realize how uncomfortable and just upset you all are, and no one's saying anything. No one's saying let's turn this off. Like, yeah, it's like unsalvageable, that movie.
And I thought Space Jam 2 was like, even though I haven't given it a quote unquote good score, and as such, I would not say it is good in the way that good films are good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a marked improvement on Space Jam 1, because like LeBron is much easier to like be with than Michael Jordan, who is just a raging asshole. Like, he's just a terrible person.
Is he actually?
He's very abusive to like the other players. He's got real anger issues. He's just a really horrible man.
LeBron James seems very relatable. There's something very really nice about him.
Yeah, and you know, he did loads of like activism in the last couple of years, and on screen, his screen presence is just like much more likable. One thing I found the film incredibly charming, and it was a very fucked vibes film, because it had this thing where like, of course it's a corporate product. Like, Space Jam has always been an advert for like American sneaker companies and basketball leagues, right? Like, that's how it started. It literally started off as an advert.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's for shoes or whatever. I wasn't there in the 90s. So of course it's like a corporate kind of film. But then the whole premise is this weird like meta narrative about how Warner Brothers gets all their films from an algorithm that tells them like what will make money, and then the algorithm has become sentient and is Don Cheadle, known from the Don Cheadle word of the day Twitter, and decided that like the algorithm wants, you know, to do like a Lawnmower Man, to like take over and like be recognized and valued, rather than all the credit going to these like phony directors who are just making films based on an algorithm, right? So he organizes a basketball tournament, right? He traps. So he looks online. He sees that LeBron is trending, and he's like, yeah, if I get LeBron to do like an epic like basketball tournament, it's gonna like be really cool. And then LeBron comes in, and he's like, guys, I don't know about this. I think it's always a bad idea when athletes try to act in films, and I think this is probably like misguided. I think maybe we shouldn't do it. And that's like the inciting scene. And then Don Cheadle overhears this, he gets very upset, and then traps him in like the computerverse, which is called the serververse.
It's called the Discord verse. You just go through a bunch of like terrible Discord servers. That's my Space Jam.
That's more emoji movie energy, but sure. And then the other side of the plot is that his son like is a gamer and wants to be a gamer and like make video games, but his dad is like, dude, bored his life. So the whole film is about like his dad coming to terms with his son being a gamer. And like, you know, I don't understand how anything I'm saying currently is not like wildly appealing. Like, this is batshit crazy, and that's so much better than like the boredom of the first one.
It's harder to come out as a gamer these days than as gay, really, isn't it?
It truly was like a gamer coming out film.
Yeah, like that's exactly really where my mind went. That's incredibly strange.
And I think
no,
go on. I truly like kind of lost my shit and realized this is such a fucked up film. I'm kind of into it, even though it's not like classically good.
Yeah.
There's a whole bit where Bugs Bunny, spoilers, I guess, for Space Jam 2. Bugs Bunny has to collect. Well, he's kind of tricked LeBron into collecting all the other Looney Tunes characters who, for reasons, have like been taken into other franchises.
Oh, okay.
And And so there's this whole bit of them going to different franchises and emulating their style. So there's a really like beautifully animated like DC universe sequence where it's animated like a classic DC cartoon of all the old designs.
Oh wow!
It looks really nice.
Is that why there's that bit where the animation looks great? Where like it's like LeBron standing by a tree. I'm not saying that's the same bit.
That was in the Toons universe.
Yeah,
a bit that I don't think was in the trailers, where it's like legit like DC stuff, and it's quite cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
and they go to the Matrix to get the granny, and how they pull this off is they literally just have footage from the Matrix, but then insert the granny like really well as like a main character.
What the fuck?
And it's like, okay, that's a little joke for like the 20-somethings in the audience, and then they go to fucking Casablanca, and one of the Looney Tunes is involved in like a Casablanca parody. In like Casablanca black and white, and it's like, okay, Space Jam 2, like what are you doing? Is gonna get into the Casablanca parody?
Yeah,
and then Tasmanian Devils delivered to them by Rick and Morty, who are like, we try to figure out what the deal with Tasmanian Devil is, and he's just like so fucked up that like we just can't deal with him, so please take him away from us. Obviously, they use like good kid language.
Wait, wait.
Rick and Morty! Like, Justin Roiland has a speaking part in this film as Rick and Morty.
I, don't believe you.
This is what happens.
Doesn't sound real. Where... No. No. Oh my god, I found it! I found it on the letter... Oh, nah, that's fucked up.
So throughout the whole film, I thought this is all in the first half. So the first half was much more entertaining for me, but I had a huge grin throughout the whole film. Just the fucking audacity to make this movie brought me joy. So I'd give Space Jam a decent recommend. It's a great time. Don't take it too seriously. I'm reading some of these Letterboxd reviews like, guys, it's Space Jam 2. You know, like it's not. You don't need to take this too seriously.
I look at people. I look at people, and they're like, "Oh, this is just a fucking remake of the first one," and it's like it's fucking Space Jam. Like, I'm sorry, but not even what do you expect? Like that's not insightful. This is what I'm saying about snarky Letterboxd reviews, man. Letterboxd is getting more and more Twitter every day. It's just people saying shit that everyone fucking knows and going, I've got a new thing to say. And like, yeah, that's cringe. That's cringe to me. Like, it's fucking Space Jam. I'm not saying like it. I'm not saying it's Space Jam. You have to like it. But don't be like, well, the plot was actually really like formulaic and think that's a hot take.
Yeah, no, it does formula really gleefully. Like, you know, the idea of like arc words?
Yeah, yeah.
Throughout the film, characters constantly almost looking at the camera say, LeBron, fun. Remember what fun is? You know, and it's like this whole, people keep saying remember what fun is because his arc is learning to let his kid have fun and not be controlling. It's almost as gleeful in how much it just doesn't want to be like an interesting art movie. It just wants to do dumb bullshit aggressively. And I was like kind of into it. So I'm too kind of into it. That's
kind of crazy. Do you want to talk about Booksmart?
Yeah, I could talk. I can talk very briefly about Booksmart. You can keep what you want to keep in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was I saw Booksmart first. So I rewatched Booksmart recently, and I saw it first a couple of years ago. And I think I had very like poorly managed expectations. I think I was expecting something a bit like 8th grade, like with some degree of seriousness or I don't know, introspectiveness. And it just wasn't that, and I was really disappointed. So I've rewatched it recently because it was on Netflix. And I wanted to try it again. And I really loved it this time. I think what clicked for me with it is realizing it is a cartoon. It's kind of playing on like surreal comedy, not like crazy Eric Andre, but surreal in a way that like Looney Tunes is surreal. Like shit happens for the sake of being incredibly funny and not really like always for like, you know, character building or realism. So I just really dug it this time. And I just think it's great. I honestly think it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Much better than Superbad, I have decided, because the middle part where they're doing stuff other than being at the party is actually fucking excellent. And yeah, subverting. I even subvert stuff like it's not a straight part. Like it does subvert like kind of classic feminism. Like the characters both start off as like very like woke, liberal, epic. And throughout the film, that's like they're constantly like challenged on those and like kind of taught like, hey, the world isn't like that black and white. You're like, you know, you can't just spit out these talking points. You have to actually like know people. That's like the big, like, you know,
that
I
seems
love
like the
that.
most appealing thing about the film to me.
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. I'll definitely give it a watch. Superbad, okay. Superbad, like good, fine movie. That's my take. That's
what
my
Booksmart has
contribution.
over Superbad is that it is funny.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, all of the actors in Superbad have been funnier in other movies.
Yeah,
they should be good here, but like when I watch Superbad, I feel like I'm watching like an echo of Michael Cera from Scott Pilgrim, like Jonah Hill from fucking 21 Jump Street or something. Like
Wolf of Wall Street even.
Yeah, genuinely like one of the fucking best comedy performances of the 2010s is Jonah Hill in Wolf of Wall Street. That shit is so funny. But yeah, anyway, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed Booksmart. Onto a film that maybe you also did enjoy. I'm getting so good at segues. Yeah, so we watched Assault on Precinct 13, and we're gonna fucking review it right now. We're gonna review it. We're gonna do it. So the reason I picked this film is because I really like The Thing, and I wanted to see more movies by the guy who made The Thing, because The Thing is really. I mean, The Thing is one of my favorite movies, and John Carpenter is a director that like. Even if I'm not entirely confident I'll love all of his movies, like he's still one of those directors that if I watch a film of his and I don't like it, like that's fine. It's not like I'll be watching a film that I would rather not have watched. It's art, you know, you kind of like grapple with it, figure out what you do and don't like about it, that kind of thing. And that's cool. So onto Assault on Precinct 13. I was really conflicted with this one. I don't know if conflicted is the right word, but I had internal conflict because this is a film that I like wanted to love, and as I was watching it, I was like, these things about this are very good. Like there is a lot of stuff about this film that is just very good, and I will get into that in detail later. But just to describe my overall feelings first, but the actual like visceral experience of my enjoyment was I wasn't very engaged. I didn't really feel it that much. I don't know. Yeah, and I as I say this, I think to myself, well, this was made as like a less than $100,000 budget exploitation film. And you know, like, to be honest, it's actually just kind of crazy that obviously John Carpenter's a very talented director, and I'm not doubting that. But in terms of the way this film has been like historicized, I guess, or contextualized as this grand achievement, and I felt some level of disconnect between that and the kind of like pulpy exploitation film that I was actually watching. And so it was a really weird experience for me, and so I think what I ended up feeling about that kind of attitude towards that film is that personally for me, I feel like this film's reputation is like a little bit overblown. I don't know. To me, it doesn't have those qualities of a classic, like a Total Recall or a RoboCop does. Not that they're films that are, like it's an early film by a director who would go on to do great things that I think has been a little bit too recontextualized, which is interesting in its own way. But in terms of the actual film itself, I didn't love it by any means. Josh, what about you? Or and just any thoughts you have on anything I just said as well?
Yeah, that sucks. I really enjoyed this. I think it's great. I like it more than Total Recall. I don't think it's as good as RoboCop. Like RoboCop is a much more interesting film, particularly because I find Carpenter to be a really apolitical director, and kind of RoboCop both doing like B movie satire with actual like commentary on things that happen in the world is quite good.
Yeah.
But as like a B coming into this, I'd never seen a John Carpenter film before, and I realized this, and I was like, "This is a grave sin I've committed. Whoa. I need to watch a Carpenter film." So I actually had Halloween already like bought in my Amazon. I feel bad for saying the word Amazon. Bezos in space meme. Okay, moving on. So I went and watched Halloween, and I thought it was good. But weird enough, your reaction to this is how I felt about Halloween. Where Halloween's been built up as like a fundamental horror film that has shaped the genre, and it has shaped the genre. Like we wouldn't have slashers as they are today without Halloween, or at least 80s, 90s slashers. But like I didn't like it as much as what came after it. Like it was kind of just fine. The middle part of that film is incredibly boring, and you follow like a character that I just do not care about.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that was aight. And prior to this, I'd always enjoyed Carpenter's music. I'd always listened to his music kind of, recreationally.
Mm-hmm.
So having that visual element, I was like, oh man, maybe it's just the music that's good. Yeah. But yeah, then I watched a little documentary about Halloween, and they talked a tiny bit about Assault on Precinct 13. And the one bit that really stuck out to me was Donald Pleasance, who plays like the psychiatrist in Halloween, was talking about how he saw Assault and he didn't get it. He thought it was dumb, and then his daughters were like, "Dad, you just don't get like the camp quality. Like you don't get the poly kind of vibe it's going for. Like it's meant to be a bit dumb." And he was like, "Oh, okay. I get it. I get what Carpenter's doing."
Yeah.
So I was going into it like wanting B movie pulp, and like I feel like I really got that, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see that's my thing with it. Is I just there were long stretches where nothing was happening, but whenever something wasn't I don't know. For me it's a really difficult film to articulate like my feelings on, because I just didn't feel it. Like when you sit there watching a film and you're just not into it. You're just not into it.
I feel the opposite. Like I think this is much better paced than a film like Halloween. I think all the information given is very like economically written, and it's either brought back at the end of the film or like builds character in a really fun pulpy way. I love like every scene of this film. I think is like funny or cute or endearing or cool. It's definitely like rule of cool a bit at points, but I dig it. I think I'd be really interested in talking about the politics of this film, which is wildly confusing. And I guess to preface, would you like to talk about the politics of Assault on Precinct 13?
That's why I found myself lost for words a second ago, and it was because I had forgotten what I wanted to say. Yeah, and it was because when going into this film, I am kind of aware, that John Carpenter generally actually doesn't like to be super political with his films, so it's kind of, but you can't, just like anything, you can't make a film about like you can't watch a film about a street gang invading a police station in 2021 without, in any time period, without politics coming to mind and like questioning the politics of the film. But there's a really interesting moment for me, which is very brief, and it's when the police officer Bishop is driving to work that, I guess, evening. I think it's like, you know,
Oh, it's the morning.
He's doing a night shift. Is it the morning? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like afternoon because it
Yeah,
takes place over the
yeah.
whole day, and then the invasion is at night.
Is at night, right? And on the radio, it says like you hear it has been noted the diverse racial identity of the gang, and that to me seemed almost like a disclaimer of like, hey guys, like, you know, obviously this isn't to say that the film doesn't say anything political as a result after this, but in terms of where the film itself is at as a concept, that to me felt like a thing of being like, hey guys, we're not saying anything about like, you know, race and police, like, and like, you know, black people or attacking the police, like that kind of thing.
Fictional, fake, like myth gang.
Yeah, exactly.
The mythical zombie gang. Like it's not a real. These aren't real dudes.
Yeah, no, completely. And in line with that, you know, they're never given an agenda, which is awesome. Like that is so cool. I love that about the film, that they like are just this faceless like cult almost, and they just like choose this this police station for death, and it's like this ritual almost where it's like where, you know, they spill the blood and they mark it with a flag. And you get a little bit of explanation from that guy. He's like, oh, I spent time with one of them in prison, and he's like it means we're marked for death, and they're like, why? And you don't really know. Like it's really cool. Like that's really good. And everything this film does on like a script writing level, I'm like, this is exactly how a film that's trying to do the thing it's doing should be writing it. Like it's such a tight script with the way, like it's a really intelligent script because everything comes together so naturally. But at the same time, like it's so aware of what it's doing. Like it's, and it never I feel like it never does the exploitation-y film thing of like accidentally bringing in something way more complex and then leaving it unanswered.
Yeah, well, I think that Carpenter is interested in commentary. He's not interested in political commentary. From the documentary I watched, he really rejected the idea that his films are trying to have a message or have a point. He finds it really like gross and saccharine when films try to say things about stuff. He's like, I'm a filmmaker. I'm here to put you into that seat and make you feel tense for 90 minutes and have an amazing time. Like he's a real like entertainment first director. But what he did get passionate about in the interview was like this real like deep, which reminds me a lot of, I've been watching some of the press junket for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I watched that recently. It reminds me a lot of how Tarantino romanticizes the kind of dawn of New Hollywood, you know, which obviously would have been ending when he was a kid in the 60s. Carpenter talks with a deep kind of sense of romanticism about kind of that like 40s, 50s era of Hollywood, you know, which this film is aping in basically being a remake of Rio Bravo, which is a Western from the 50s.
Yeah.
So I think what this film is about kind of is this kind of nostalgia piece where it's like looking at the 70s climate of cinema, which is all like political, heavy, complicated, like lots of 70s cinema is very like angry at cops. Cops are usually pretty bad in 70s cinema. Justice is always being questioned. Like everything's murky and grey and complicated. And this is like, yeah, but what if cool Western? So it goes to like lengths to just like, this is a story about, you know, like honorable heroes, just like cool cinematic heroes
against the odds.
Yeah, there's a great line. There's great bits in this film about how, you know, when he's driving to work at the beginning, he's like, I'm going to be a hero today. And he's like, no, you're going to work at this like empty precinct. This is just a purely like administrative kind of move you're doing today. And he's like, and they're like, what, you thought you'd be a hero on your first day? You know, this idea that cops are like boring and lame and bad actually. And that's like the reality of this film. You know, the cops are really awful to like throughout this film. Other than the main character, they all suck. And there's no heroes. There's no heroes anymore. And this is kind of delving into this fantasy of like the hero archetype. And at the end, when he like bonds with the ultimate murder criminal. They bond as like heroic men, enacting this like archetype, this B-movie role, and that's like, it's a nostalgia fantasy piece, and I think that's what it's interested in subverting in cinema, rather than like actually talking about cops. It's kind of like, we know cops are bad, but what if cool Western?
Yeah, I think you're so right. And it's really interesting then that for the first like 10 minutes, it could have gone either way in terms of the villains of the film. Like, it could be very easy for another 70s film to cast these guys as the rebel heroes. Like there's that opening scene where you see some of them gunned down, and they're like, and they're not explicitly cast as villains. Until
it doesn't even show the faces of the cops. Like, it's very much like the cops are being bad here.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is like an execution, and like an unjust execution, and it's great. Like, so it's very much anti-hero. Like, and it could be very easy to cast those like rebels as these like the rough and tough like underdogs of the film, and then actually they get this like horror treatment where you see them like, obviously there's the part where they murder a child, but the bit I mean is the shots of like the almost like guerrilla force like gathering outside of the police station. Like, those are chilling. Like, those are probably my favorite shots in the film. It's just watching these people move around, and they're so organized, and that's something that's so impressive about the film. Like, everything is incredibly well done and well choreographed. There's no like clumsiness. The cops and the prisoners defending the police station move like desperate people struggling for their lives, and the people outside move like this like terrifying like SAS style task force. And like, I think that's the worst thing when you watch films like this. It's like, when you like what they're doing on a like script level, but then in the actual execution of the violence, it can quite often be like super clumsy and kind of and not very like crunchy or satisfying. So that was something that really helped me get through it when I wasn't as entertained as I wanted to be.
Well, kind of back into like the political ambivalence of Carpenter, with reference to what you were talking about, with how, contrasting that opening scene of the cops shooting them with the rest of the film with this like silent, organized, horrific force onto like real people. I think Carpenter, from what I have seen of the two films I've seen and what I've like heard of the other films, I think he is obsessed with like, and a lot of the kind of critical reception of this, kind of the appraisers of this when it came out talk about this, the kind of exploiting the fear of like irrational violence. So the fundamental fear that I think Carpenter likes to tap into is violence that you don't understand why it's happening. Like, think about Michael Myers in Halloween. He is, in that film, he wasn't even called Michael Myers. He was just called The Shape. It is just this thing that kills, and you don't know what it wants or why it's doing it. And that's like the horror. And I don't know if The Thing is like this, where like the alien in The Thing is just like this unknowable, horrific thing that wants to kill, but they don't know why. Is that happening in The Thing?
Yeah, the thing basically, it just seeks to like, it's an organism, and the way it's rationalized in the film is kind of even scarier, because it's just doing what that organism would do to survive, in the same way that we like farm things to survive, we do things to survive that put other things in harm's way. That the thing is just surviving. Like, it takes on the shape of other beings, and it like in a really disgusting, awful way, and that's terrifying and unexplained.
The animalistic kind of alienness of that is sort of exactly. This irrationality, like irrationality, in like, as a person, I don't get why you're doing this horrible thing.
Exactly. And it does seem there's a conflict with the thing of like it seems like it has some form of higher consciousness because it understands what humans are and what things are, but at the same time, yeah, there's that animalistic side of like just like devouring and just inflicting harm, and that's and the like cognitive dissonance between those two facts is like impossible to understand, and that's terrifying. Like it's it's terrifying because of that. Yeah.
And I think Sarah Jane Black like rightfully highlights that in Halloween, you know, this takes the form of like feminine fears. You know, Michael Myers is a stalker. He's an abusive, violent, big man who follows women around and kills them when they are not chased. And here, I think this is delving into fears of like us versus them, just fears of like the other. So at the beginning of the film, I think that the characters who are humanized are the gangsters, and the police are this organized, like, force determined to shoot them down in the gutter. And they're horrifying because the gangsters, the police can't view the gangsters as human in that moment, and neither can the gangsters view the police as human. And then that's flipped around, where at the end of where during the duration of the film, the people in the police station are the humans, and then the other outside, the gangsters, are just unknowable, you know,
faceless.
They just cholo packed. Yeah, and by showing both sides, again, it's doing like the apolitical thing of like it's trying to say something about the irrational fear of enemy. And not understanding what the enemy wants. And the enemy always being dehumanized. So on that level, that's very, very good exploitation kind of conceit, in my opinion.
No, exactly. He is exploiting our social fears. Like it's and that provide his commentary. You brought that up before. It's not political commentary. It's more commentary on like the human condition using recognizable elements from our society. So films like They Live. I mean, not They Live, because They Live is kind of an exception. But Halloween and this film, we can as an audience recognize what is happening and what it's going for, and relating it to our own experiences is what makes it effective. However, I get I haven't talked about much about why I didn't like this film, and it's mainly because I couldn't say. I mean, it's like anyone with any film. Sometimes people just watch films and it doesn't entirely resonate with people. I don't know. But that was quite frustrating for me because
I guess to speak to like my visceral enjoyment, like when my brother came up, my brother's 16, and I was like, "It's such a bro film," and I'm a bro, and I'm like, "Bro, we gotta watch this."
The ending is so bro.
You're gonna like it so much, and he was like, "Okay, sure, I will." And then, like, as soon as you get that, like, that big zoom on Napoleon, and he's like, "Gotta smoke." We fucking cheered.
Love that
we love
movie.
That shit.
Yeah,
and we spent the next 2 days quoting lines from the film to each other. We kept saying like, "Gotta smoke," and and you know, I wanted a vanilla twist. Boom, and what other great lines in there? Just you know, stuff like that. Just I love the pulpy, cheesy one-liners, and just the normal action movie enjoyment are just extremely good in this. I love the running thing of like how Napoleon won't tell anyone what his name means, and he'll only do it like after he's dead. And it's just like running like tension throughout the film, you know. And at the end, he's like, "Hey, can I ask you something? You know, what does Napoleon mean?" He's like, "Well, I'll tell you in 5 minutes or so." You know, but then he lives and we never find out, and it's just like so good. And the part at the end when what's the name of the woman? Let me look at real quick.
Of the what?
The main call.
Bishop.
And Bishop says, "You got some smooth moves or some fancy moves or something." This brought me visceral joy.
I am with you. It is awesome. Wilson is fantastic. Like, what a performance.
Yeah, just a rival with Harrison Ford to me as Han Solo. Like, this is like
the
pluckish rogue man. Like, this is just as satisfying to me as a Han Solo kind of.
Yeah, it's up there. It is that level. It is definitely that level. And I guess, would you recommend it?
I give this a strong recommend. I really love this film. I think it's incredibly fun. I think it does a great job at emulating kind of the 50s Western and putting it in like a kind of 70s context. And that 70s context then makes kind of doing the 50s Western thing subversive. Another thing I really enjoyed was Laurie Zimmer as Lee, who plays like the classic like Western hard lady, who's like very flirtatious and like in control, but like never moves her facial expression. Like even when she gets shot, she just stands there, like stares the person down coldly, and then blasts back, which is such a fucking, again, like rule of cool. Like it's just badass. Like I love that shit. So highly recommend this film, and I think politically kind of empty, but I think in terms of stuff about like the condition of being a person, the fear of the irrational, the fear of the other and of enemy, I think it taps into those in a very effective and fun way. So I really love this film and I would recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah. I would give it I'd give it a decent recommend. I'm balancing that out with the fact that I think this is a film that a lot of people will love. It's a film that I probably should love. But at the same time, I'm going to balance that out with the fact that it didn't resonate hugely with me for reasons that I genuinely cannot explain. So apologies for that. But at the same time, yeah, this has some like amazing stuff in it, and a lot of stuff that I'm constantly looking for with films. I think is what I've been trying to get across. Like this has so much stuff for me in it. It just sadly didn't strike a chord. So I'd give it a decent recommend. Wonderful stuff. What are we going to be talking about next week, Josh?
So next week, very excited about this. So, Matt, again, I've been trying to throw you some bones, give you kind of artists that you like, and growing up, one of your favorite artists of all time, right, was the Beatles. Would you agree with that?
I would, yeah, definitely. Like early formative art experiences, yeah, is Beatles.
Yeah, so we're heading to the Matty zone here with our brand spanking new album, McCartney 3 Reimagined. Now, McCartney 3 Imagined, not reimagined, just imagined.
Imagined.
Well, the reimagined would have made more sense. Is a remix album of McCartney 3, featuring such artists as Beck, Dominic Fite, St. Vincent, Dev Hynes, Ed O'Brien of Radiohead fame, Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age fame, Damon Albarn of Blur and Gorillaz fame, and of course Phoebe Bridgers. So we're going to be doing that next time. I'm wildly excited. I have not heard it yet, but the track list, really boggles my mind. So I really want to talk about this.
The remix album to rival 1,000 Gex and the Tree of Clues.
Yeah, it's our annual remix album.
Yeah, we do have to do one. I think. Okay, awesome. That is going to be interesting. But I look forward to talking about it. I think talking about it will be fascinating either way. So yeah. Thank you very much for listening. Check out our social media, which is linked down below. And subscribe and like if you enjoyed this episode. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.